Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Words of Heart. In today's episode, we have the privilege of speaking with Tracy Cromwell. Hope I said that right.
You got that
Thank
right.
you for joining me today, Tracy.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Tracy, if you could tell my audience a bit about yourself, what they may not know, give us the inside scoop into Tracy Cromwell. That is you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. So I'm definitely, if I was to say, scoop about me, I'm not the same person I used to be, 10, 15 years ago. Even being very young, I, um, I guess some people would look at me and think, oh, she's, must have had it easy. She's in shape. She's this or that, and see the Tracy today. But the Tracy today is because of the challenges I had with food and with my relationship with my body from when I was young all the way up till, gosh, my early 40s when I had been a habitual a yo-yo dieter. I had become pre-diabetic. I just had a really volatile relationship with myself. But the Tracy of today is so grateful for that journey because I think if I didn't have it, I wouldn't have found my purpose and I wouldn't have, gone through the learning that I had to go through to reverse my diagnosis, to reverse my negative viewpoint of myself and the really hard view I had of my body and the anger I had towards it. And so, um, that led me at 54 now, I'm 54 years old to, have written a book and try to help other people because I know I wasn't alone. Once I finally realized I wasn't alone, I wasn't the only one in this because I always kept it to myself. On the outside, everyone thought maybe she had it all together, but on the inside, she was, just not in her best space for a healthy relationship with me, and then also just to enjoy my life, so I think that's one of the biggest things when people see me initially, that um it wasn't always this way, and I made it through some really pretty significant challenges to reverse the path I was on, so um and uh and with that, I love to tell people that, you know just when you think you want to give up, because I was there, you got probably a little voice, this voice inside of you that says, you can do it. You can figure it out. You can do this. We can figure this out. And having the courage to listen to that, and the courage to go on your journey um, of life, of learning. And and if you are struggling with your body or self-image or anything like that, um, it's okay, and that you can, you know make it through it, and you don't have to spend the rest of your life in that situation. So that's a bit about me.
All right, and thank you for sharing that. In regards to that giving up mentality, in regards to one's body, I fully understand that. I know you know a bit about my story. I got diagnosed with diabetes at the start of the pandemic last year. Prior to before I was diagnosed, because obviously I didn't know it was diabetic related at the time.
Yeah.
Drastic weight loss, not be able to keep anything down, body was basically a skeleton. The whole gamut, being pre-diabetic, so you have some firm knowledge on how it works a little bit. So obviously it was a really depressing point in my life, and I had just turned 24, and it was the
Yeah.
holidays and Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, all these family oriented like holidays where you're supposed to be happy and grateful and thankful. I couldn't be happy
I
because
hear you.
I could have died at any given moment. And I was like, the smile and the glow you see here before you was non existent.
Mhm.
It was absolutely terrifying, the sheer thought of death And I kept waking up every single day thinking, to be honest, I thought, can I not suffer anymore? Can the solution just
Yeah.
appear? So I did have that giving up mentality, or thinking this is my last breath. Please just take this pain away. But I think my voice inside of my head was my faith.
Yeah.
Many people, I'm sure, if they were in my predicament, would have ended it right there. And I will be honest, that thought did cross my mind because there was no concrete silver lining to what was going on. And I'm a strong believer in there being a reason for everything. I just had no idea what that reason is. And I was in such a depressive state of mind that I didn't want to know I didn't know what the reason was. So why should I suffer? That was where my mindset was, specifically in regards to my body. Because and I'll be honest, I wasn't the healthiest eater. My food regimen was basically that of a 5-year-old's, to be honest, even though I'm in my 20s and there's certain food groups and everything that you need to be immerse your body into, like rice and grains and everything. When it came to that, I was so opposed to it. I was really into it when I was younger, yet somehow a switch went off and I just was opposed to eating it as an adult. But not so much anymore because I need it. But the voice in my head, just to verify what I mentioned, was my faith. God is really the cornerstone of my whole being, and He's been with me through my darkest of challenges, pretty much since I was born. I didn't divulge this to you in our email exchange, but for the first 2 years of my life, I couldn't hear her talk. So,
Oh my goodness.
as far
Wow, I
as
did not know that.
any health struggles or issues, I've dealt with my fair share of them. So being diabetic during a pandemic, though really unfortunate, wasn't that much of a surprise to me. It was a huge surprise to my family, though, considering how I grew up. But God's like, hang in there. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes,
You're not gonna suffer. There is an answer to this. And his answer was my diagnosis and being diabetic. So I saw me being diagnosed. These headphones aren't the best. He saw my diagnosis, or I see my diagnosis, as a blessing in disguise, because if I hadn't been diagnosed, then I could have died. So,
Well, I wonder, I think too, because it's interesting, your journey, mine, I look at as a blessing as well, because it forced me to make a decision to learn how to take care of my body, but not in a blind fashion where you just put whatever in your mouth and your body has to deal with it. But it also taught me compassion, for myself. There were times too, I would sit there and I mean, like, if this is what life is, then, it's not what I want. Maybe it'd be better without me on the planet, and,
right.
and then again, what I hear is, no, that's not the case. And this was the journey I was meant to go on. And I think with you, I resonate with you so much, is that through your journey, your ability to teach people about diabetes, to understand it, that they can get through it as well. They can get healthy, and they can learn how to, my biggest proponent is we're granted this beautiful, amazing, vessel to experience this life in. And we've been programmed through, advertisement and what's healthy food. But for me, watching TV, and I was one of those. I was like, well, if it's on the shelf and says it's healthy for me, it should be good for me. And so I would get upset with my body if I didn't feel good after I ate something. I would still make it eat it. I didn't have this connection that when it spoke to me and it would say, hey, I don't feel good after this, I would basically eat something else to try and cover it up. And I eat something else, therefore I'm overeating. And then I eat a bunch of candy because I was sad, and like this horrible, up and down. And, the concept of how was I going to get myself out of that behavior, right? So when I got diagnosed, I was really upset with myself. How could I have let this happen? How could I have allowed this? It was just another notch in the belt of failures as far as I was concerned, so I did go through a real moment of just being really upset. And then I thought, oh my gosh, actually, in my mind too, it was sort of this gives me permission. I have like this note to show my family, my body, I cannot eat like you. I can't eat the big pancake breakfasts, that would make me nauseous and make me, hardly able to function the rest of the day. It made me, realize that I had to take care of myself, um, and then it was again that mode of, it obviously wasn't working, not taking care of myself. Yeah. Yeah. So that diagnosis, even though how hard it was to hear and frustrating and a bit terrifying, I don't regret that day, at all. Because I've learned so much because of it. Otherwise, I think if I'd never been pre-diabetic, I'd still be trying to, I don't think I would have learned what I needed to learn, So yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I completely agree with you as far as seeing the positive outlook to it. When I got diagnosed, obviously, I saw it as God's way of giving my life more purpose, another chance to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it happened in the pandemic, though really terrifying, have any health diagnosis of any kind,
Mm-hmm.
um, gave me the opportunity to adjust a lot better to this new phase of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I did take a break from school. I mean, also just give you another fun little fact. I did end up passing my classes even though I was sick.
Yep, I love it. Yep.
That
Oh.
was a real miracle.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I did take a break from school, and this was before everything got shut down.
Yeah.
Um, but it did give me opportunity to understand this new phase of my life a lot easier and better. Um, and I feel like it made it slightly better because the world decided to be put on pause and not be so chaotic.
Mhm.
You had to readjust your priorities, adapt, explore different interests, and figure things out. And in my opinion, I had to figure out life as a diabetic and um, how can I live with this for the rest of my life? And
Mhm.
am I still me? Can I still do this? And
Mhm.
many people saw it as well, my family, considering what I just shared with you, had the hardest time dealing with this,
Mhm.
obviously. But many people were like, oh, I am so sorry. And they
Mhm.
take pity. They take pity because I mean, you hear diabetic like, oh no, you can't eat anything at all. Um,
Not true. Mhm.
that's yes, but that's like where their mindset
Well, it
goes.
does. Everything's getting taken away, and yeah, I get it.
You're basically a hamster, if that makes sense. But I tell them that to not feel sorry for me because if I hadn't been diagnosed, I could have died. And
Yep.
this through my diagnosis and the fact that I've really embraced this new chapter in my life and embraced change in general
Mm-hmm.
because before I got diagnosed, I wasn't a big fan of change whatsoever.
I hear
I
you.
despised it. I despised it so much.
Yep.
Any sense of change that would occur, I would complain without a doubt. Like, why does this have to happen?
It is
Um,
funny, like, as humans, humans don't like a lot of change. It's hard to be pliable. I get that. Yeah. And I don't know about you with now just to confirm, are you a type 2 diabetic or did you type 1? Which diagnosis
um,
did you get?
that's the thing. Maybe because it was in the pandemic season or whatever. Um, we never classified what specific type I was.
Mhm.
Um, Although I'm sure we should have, but it was still new, and I had to get all different types of doctors and medication and insulin and changing the insulin, and it was
Mhm.
just a myriad of other things that now had to
Yeah.
be a part of my life.
So you're insulin dependent.
I am insulin dependent,
Okay,
and
good.
I've been diabetic for a year now. I survived the pandemic, yay, without it
Yay.
affecting me.
Yay.
I did get vaccinated too, so I'm fully vaccinated, so that's also a blessing too. Um, um, as far as how we've been treating it like it's type one.
Mhm. That's
But
what it kind of sounded like to me. Mhm.
there's no classification to which specific type I have. Probably should figure that out at some point, but
That's cute. Well, I was thinking about your symptoms because, losing weight, not being able to eat and all that. Definitely, I was thinking type 1. Sometimes with type 2 diabetes, it affects differently, and of course, only a doctor could tell you, but, um,
I
with
mean, they
type
made
2.
a note in their little doctor's thing that it could be type one, but I was hooked up to a bunch of needles and machines,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I for the longest time thought I could be type one, but
yeah,
after speaking to my I believe it's called endocrinologist or diabetes doctor,
yeah.
she's like, no, we never really classified which type you are. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to ask her because 'cause it'd be really nice to know because they are treated differently, with, type 1. You can't do anything about it. That is the rest of your life. Type 2, depending upon how early you catch it, there is possibility of, lowering insulin and through a lot of work, getting it to where you're not as dependent. But if you are type 1, you, you're that means your immune system basically killed your pancreas, I believe, and you don't make insulin. So it'd be really a really great idea to know. So in terms of how you want to set your goals or how you want to think of things in the future. Because if you were underweight, and I could, relearn this, but like for me, I was pre-diabetic due to lifestyle choices, not that it activated my immune system to kill my insulin producing organ, and but I've known of people that are in their 20s and 30s where all of a sudden their immune system does go haywire and they end up with type 1 diabetes. And again, you being close to death, not able to eat and skinny, I'm wondering if it's more of that. And most, the type 2 diabetics I know that are diagnosed we were overweight and eating
Well,
wrong food.
I, I definitely wasn't overweight.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be interesting. I would highly recommend really pushing them on that because yeah, it's a different experience. I mean, all of a sudden managing all of that and stuff. And I think for me, and if I can talk as of the scenario of somebody who's pre-diabetic,
Yeah.
obviously you didn't most people don't know. Like you didn't know, you just needed to feel good, even, so you were pre-diabetic in some phase, but there are so many people that walk around with prediabetes. I think it's, if you had a room, the statistics are a little off, but if you're in a room of 30 people, um, I think it's like upwards of a third of them or more. are pre-diabetic now. And then the scary part is if there's a group of 3 of them, one in those 3 doesn't even know it. And because it is, some people don't even get a symptom. Some people do. For me, I got really thirsty. The minute after I was thirsty, I had to go to the bathroom. And it was this odd cycle of lots of thirst and then lots of running to the restroom and um and too much wine and chocolate pairing. So anyway, I stopped exercising. I was working a lot of hours and I was hardly sleeping at all. And I was in a big corporate job. And so, I had the perfect storm to become pre-diabetic. And then I think the CDC states, pre-diabetes, if you find that you are, is your chance to stop the tracks and to not become type 2 diabetic. So me not knowing too much about you, I would say, gosh, I'd be on that phone with that doctor's office. I say, I need to know right now, because it does change things, of how you would mentally be looking at this. So yeah.
Well,
But
there's probably there's other doctors and everything that have to be definitely more put into the mix
yeah,
when
yeah,
the diabetic bomb dropped into my life. And luckily, my best friend, who I've known since I was 4, got diagnosed with diabetes about 3 or so years ago when I found out. So she was a real anchor in helping me adjust to this new phase of
yeah.
my life. And she is still checking on me like all the time, like, is your blood sugar good and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
um, for
Yeah.
those who actually, I am curious because I know this phrase is thrown in a lot, or I guess this diet that you mentioned, yo-yo dieting. What is that specifically?
Yeah. So as I define it, I think the industry defines it, is that you say you've gained weight and then you pick a diet that's probably one that's more about calorie restrictive and diet food, those kinds of things. You lose the weight and then you don't know how to maintain the weight because the way you lost it is not sustainable. So then you start to go back, because there's been deprivation, there's been, you can't have this or that. You start to kind of go back to introducing those things back into your life. Pretty soon, you start putting the weight on. And then you go on another diet and you do it again. And then you put the weight back on. And then you do it again. You keep putting the weight back on. You've never figured out. It's sort of this horrible, to me, I just felt trapped in it because when I would diet, it would be to get the goal weight. And I would try and get there no matter what. That just whatever it was, 500 calories a day. Was it Slim Fast drinks? Was it diet pills? Was it um, um, pills so that I would drop water weight? Um, you know, just anything like that. And then you get there, you get to the weight, and then you're still not happy. Because you don't know what to do next. And so um, then what I would do is I would exercise so hard, and it wasn't exercise to be healthy. It was exercise demanding my body to look a certain way. And so I would just pound myself
Oh,
so hard. And if I stopped at all, stopped exercising, all of a sudden the weight would all just come back on. And it was just this horrible, you know, time in my life with myself. And I wrote in the book, that I had my yogurt and payday candy bar diet. It's like, I mean, I was trying all this stuff. Anyway, just silly stuff. But you're never happy with yourself. So you're going to keep pushing, pushing, pushing. And it really hit me hard. I was going through an old box of photos about, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. And I found a photo of me during, I'd had my 2 kids. They were still pretty young. And it was one of those phases again where I was just relentlessly pounding myself, doing these major step aerobics with weights, almost to the point of throwing up, and trying to get off of my thighs I'm sorry, they're inherited. Now I get it, but these, cellulite patches or this little blob of fat. And that's when I was taking these diet pills and everything. And, but I looked at this photo and I looked at myself and I was like, gosh, Tracy, what I was so distorted in how I saw myself. I was so fit and I looked really, really good. But then I also looked at the photo and I realized how sad I was inside and how um, unhappy I was. And it really made me realize that um, when we diet, when our mindset can be just on what's on the scale and anything we can possibly do to meet that, our brain's like, number one, we're giving up. We're having to exercise because we have to, you know what I mean? And it's a whole different thing. When I finally stopped that and, like when I became pre-diabetic and stuff, I had to start learning to respect my body and what I put in my mouth. So I still yo-yo dieted for 4 years to try and figure out how to get out of that. And so when I went to school to become a health coach and a trainer is when I started to realize this body is like an incredible machine that takes data, which is our food, and if we give it food that it knows what to do with and helps it function at the best possible way, most of the time the weight takes care of itself. And so all of a sudden I just started to play around with that. Well, what does my body do best with? And then I had to learn and break that. I had to break that addiction to the scale or addiction to a size and say, my body's, I release the end. I finally had to say, I release the end result. I'm going to learn how to take care of this, being that I am. And it was really interesting because when I started to do that and I started to say, okay, when I eat bread, okay, I notice sometimes I don't feel good. I notice that I retain water. I notice that, I put on weight. So I have to take that data and I say, okay, I love bread, but is that slice of bread worth me feeling all these other things that my body's telling me? And going through the wonderful concept of I feel good when I don't eat it. And the bread no longer drives my choices like it used to. And so I guess that's the thing is when I yo-yo diet, you're just doing whatever you can to lose the weight. You're not really learning the journey. Or also sometimes you're just doing some kind of a diet that you can't sustain and then it's depressing. so my way of breaking out of that was again releasing the result. Just being willing to go through that that concept of what does make you feel best in the morning for breakfast. It could be totally different than what someone's telling you otherwise. Do you love oatmeal with some fruit on it, or and you feel great and your body functions great? Or do you want like a big smoothie with protein powder and lots of greens and some beets and stuff? Is that what sets you off in a nice great morning? you know being willing to do that. Some people do great with eggs and bacon, a little bit bacon and a really dense grainy piece of bread. I can't eat that. I'm a smoothie person. I finally figured that out. My body wants that. That's what I give it. And so figuring out and doing those experiments and making it fun can break you out of that roller coaster lifestyle.
Right. And considering the pandemic and how limiting and confined everything is, specifically to the home, do you think people are perhaps struggling with managing their health,
Mhm.
particularly to their body and food and the fact that they have access to it? Gym, well, there's other forms of exercise, but the gym is closed. And do
Mhm.
you find people having a lot of issues because of the pandemic in regards to taking care of their body?
Right. I think some definitely have. It was hard to change. Like you were, what was Kate, you said, it was like your brain didn't want to change, So here we're all, I feel like we're all a bunch of kids that got sent to timeout, and we didn't want to go, and we can't go to the gym, we can't go to the restaurant, we weren't able to see our friends. And how do we adapt to that? And I know Tracy of 15 years ago would not have adapted very well to this at all, and but that I think when with food, I think one of the hardest parts about food in our country is that it's not equally sourced out to all communities. And so, there were a lot of people, because the schools were closed, that some kids didn't get lunch, they didn't get breakfast, so we have that whole side of things. People that lost jobs, so then they they're trying to go to food bank, and the food banks are, they do pretty good, but a lot of their food is high sodium soups, high sodium foods, high sugar foods. So there's that really horrible side where it just, I think economically it's not it's not equal, to so many people. Then there's the other side, that we're able to bring really healthy food in. They're able to learn how to cook, with real nutritious food. I think one of the hardest parts for me, like when I travel around the US, is, I go to some towns and I can barely find any real good produce or anything like that. Most everything is packaged, or it's a, refined product. So, um, as far as adaptability, I think that some people did well, and I think some people, it was very hard. As far as fitness, for me, I was a bit of a gym rat before this. I loved going to the gym. I actually trained people in a gym, and I was like, oh, great, okay. But now it forced me to be. I had to say, okay, I'm going to be doing. I have some weights here at home, and I have a TRX here at home, but it really got me outside more. I started to run outside. We started going hiking. We started to go see places we didn't see otherwise, because we were trapped in, you know, go to work, go to the gym, come home, make dinner, go to bed, get up, go to work, go to the gym, you know. And now it's like, I love being outside. So now I think it'd be really hard to get me back to a gym. So I think it's been a wide array, from, I think people done very, very well with their health, to some are having a very hard time with their health, just as with their economy life. Some are on the brink of total, disaster, losing homes, losing their rent. They have no money, to those that are making a lot of money right now. I've never seen anything like this, ever. And so, and it's a long-winded answer, but um, I think I think everything has happened to everybody, if you know what I mean. I mean, there's,
Yeah.
yeah, and you being diagnosed diabetic, so, and I think in a way, and what, if I heard you right, the concept of then being home, it gave you that time to feel it, to learn, no pressure to have to go out and eat, because nobody was, so able to finally have that ability to learn this new life. Um, you know, and now as things are opening, you'll be able to, I think, navigate that probably better than you would have otherwise, I'm guessing.
Right.
So yeah. Um, it's a, I just never thought I'd see something like this. Just never did.
Right. So I do have that icebreaker question. It's not about food, so you don't gotta worry, neither do I. If you could have any superpower that's not flying or teleporting, what would it be?
Fun. If I could have any superpower, it's not flying or teleporting. Darn, I left the teleporting one.
Many people pick it when I say they can't pick flying, but it's
Isn't
the
that
exact same
funny?
thing.
I love
So,
it. I always thought we needed to invent teleportation devices, but if I could have any superpower, wow. I
feel
never
free
really
to
thought
have.
of that. I would say the first thing that really came to mind would be super strength.
Okay.
Yeah, physical super strength. Yeah. But
Super
not
strength.
to give up my mental. I won't trade it for mental strength. If I had to train, I'd keep my mental strength.
Okay, strength.
Yep.
The power I would pick, it's not exactly a power yet, but I feel like it would be one in the future, would be the power for this podcast to be heard across other galaxies that have yet to be discovered. They're not even discovered yet.
That's awesome. Well, I'll use my super strength to help that happen, right?
Yes.
Oh my
Well,
God.
Tracy, this has been a wonderful conversation, and it's not every day that I talk about the body and health and diabetes all that often on my podcast because I like it to be an open forum for all types of conversation. So
Yeah.
this really warms my heart that we were able to discuss it because it is a part of me, and I do like to make it a point to raise any type of awareness in regards to it.
Yeah,
So
it's so important, it's such a it's a type 2 diabetes is increasing in our country. And the more we can educate anybody on either types of diabetes and the implications and the care that's needed for those that are facing it, and to help people understand the signs, the symptoms. Don't wait. It's best to find out sooner, and like you, getting that diagnosis can save your life. So,
absolutely.
yep, yep.
So we're at the end of this great conversation, unfortunately. Do you have any social plugins where people can find your book, which is just
Yes.
prominently in the background there? Give
Yes.
us the inside scoop to how my audience can get in contact with you.
Yes. So I do have a book. It's called Your Personal Journey with Food, a roadmap for the confused and frustrated dieter. And I wrote it with my co-author, Ingrid Lau, and she's actually from Santiago, Chile. So we bring, an American and then also South American flavor to the book. And so you can find it on Amazon. And then also um, um, you can order it through your favorite independent bookstore as well. So, and then also you can go to my website. It's tracycromwell.com and learn a bit more about me. And then you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. So I'd love it if you reached out, start following me. If you have questions, I'm here. And like I said, I've been there, I've been through the gamut. And so when I'm working with people, there's no judgment because no one's perfect. We all have our own journey, and those are incredible journeys. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me today, Tracy. This was a great conversation. You have no
Thanks for
idea.
joining. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, no problem. To all my listeners, stay healthy, stay safe. Please take care of your body. You don't understand your body as well as you think you do. I know from firsthand experience, and so does Tracy. Please make sure your body is well taken care of because it's a precious, precious life form and needs to be cherished. Absolutely. So stay healthy, stay safe, keep your body in check, and until next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.